Alora Chistiakoff, Managing Editor of Social Computing Journal. I'm here with Dion Hinchcliffe at Web 2.0 Expo in San Francisco, and we're going to talk to him about some of what's been going on. So, Dion, what's been the great sort of key themes from the Expo this year?
Well, we see one, the continued maturity in Web 2.0. Tim had the big keynote. Tim O'Reilly, whose company came up with the term. We talked about Web squared as where the web appears to be going in terms of its evolution. So that was certainly a hot topic. Twitter and social messaging, I think, was another big theme here, and its use in business. It's primarily a consumer tool, but it's very effective also at doing things like CRM and marketing and all sorts of interesting things. So, is your business on Twitter? I think that was one of the big things that we saw quite a bit on. Those are some of the bigger ones.
It's interesting you mentioned that. I actually had an interesting customer service experience last week where I was frustrated with a product online, and I was tweeting about it, and within about 15 minutes I got contacted by their Twitter resource to escalate my issue, and it was resolved in about another 15 minutes. And it was a really effective use, and it actually was very good for them because it stopped me from complaining online.
That's right. Well, and the theme of the conference is the power of less. I had my Economics 2.0 workshop, and we talked a lot about these new effective models for reaching out a large audience with very little effort. And Twitter is, that example you just gave was just what we're talking about.
So in terms of business themes for actually incorporating Web 2.0 in the enterprise itself, even beyond the external-facing marketing or customer service, what are the kinds of trends you're seeing people discuss a lot on that front?
Well, a lot of people are now, this year, getting serious about using Enterprise 2.0 style tools like blogs, wikis, social messaging, to help workers be more productive, retain more knowledge, and innovate. Innovation is something I hear that a lot of people want to do, and these tools actually will enable that. And we see people now doing the really hard-headed, how do I make this work in my business? What tools should I be using? A lot of the discussions I see on the floor here, and certainly in our clients' booths, we saw people really kicking the tires on, all right, if I'm going to do this, I have to pick the right infrastructure, the right tools, and then the processes, things like community management, which is something that's foreign, I think, still to most businesses to make it all work.
So any particular products or tools or services you've seen that are really exciting or interesting, or that you think are worth keeping an eye on?
Sure. Right over your shoulder, there's the social text booth. Of course, Ross Mayfield, the CEO there, actually helped coin the term Enterprise 2.0. He and Andrew McAfee at Harvard sat together and actually came up with it. They have a best-of-breed suite, and they announced the social text desktop at the show, or released recently, that in their early tests show that it's like a dashboard. It shows your entire social experience inside the enterprise, all your different channels. It can be, I believe, things like Facebook and Twitter, as well as their channels. And they've been able to point to higher levels of employee engagement with that. So that's something very exciting we're seeing here at the show. Certainly one of our clients, so disclaimer there, Reply has a product called Tammy, which has a lot of best practices. I actually had them show it at a workshop at the Berlin Web 2.0 Expo last year. Has a lot of things we're talking about, including open APIs and widgets and all those sorts of things that allow deeper distribution of Web 2.0 experiences in the workplace, so that workers can actually use them wherever they happen to be on the internet.
Well, and that actually brings up a great point. I think historically one of the things that we've seen a lot of is that much of the innovation in the Web 2.0 space is really rooted in the Bay Area. And obviously for companies trying to get off the ground outside of the Bay Area, there's always the question of, is it more relevant to be local here in San Francisco or Silicon Valley, or can you really start to innovate and get the resources you need and develop your business outside of the Bay Area? So Tammy would be an example where you've got a lot of stuff going on in the European market that's very, very active in the social space.
Absolutely.
And then, so I guess the question is, what other areas within even just the U.S. are particularly sort of good kind of hot spots for development in the Web 2.0 and social space when it comes to development and innovation?
So there are literally only a few places in the entire world where there is a significant output of software of any kind, and an even smaller number of places where it comes in the 2.0 space, which is on the leading edge of the market. Obviously, the Bay Area is the biggest in the world by far. New York, Boston, Seattle, Austin, and a couple other places are the big ones in the United States. And London and Munich are the other really big ones in terms of what we're seeing overseas.
Great. Well, you are actually going to be speaking at Interactive Austin later this month in Austin, Texas.
Yep.
And so, what do you think is Austin's role in this, as sort of this emerging, sort of not, this new crop of cities that are really starting to develop stuff?
So I think Austin's right on the intersection of the creative and technical aspects of all the things we're seeing on the edge of digital media and 2.0 society and culture. Obviously, South by Southwest is down there for a reason, right? So there's an enormous hotbed of energy and creativity and talent growing in that area.
It's a university town, so you've got a lot of fresh energy coming out of the University of Texas all the time.
Absolutely, and they're the community that's there. For one, it exists. There is a creative community around web-based products. A lot of startups are based down there nowadays, and it's growing. They don't have as much of a venture capital infrastructure like the Bay Area has, and that's really what's holding them back, in my opinion. That's really if they can nurture that part of the front end part of the business, they can develop many more startups. And so, as Austin builds that infrastructure, I think we'll see very impressive results.
On the other hand, Austin is a much more affordable city than the Bay Area, so bootstrapping is, I think, probably a lot more plausible for a lot of people trying to get new products off the ground.
Well, I think
Austin.
you'll find talent there also more easily. It's very hard to find and hire good people here in the Valley, even in the downturn, because there's so many companies that are hiring, and because Austin's a university town and it has that creative community culture. I think that right now it's a great place to have a startup if you actually want to be able to find people.
Great. So then, what's going to be your keynote, or what's going to be your focus when you go to Interactive Austin?
Well, I'm going to talk about how to survive and thrive during the downturns. It's going to be kind of like my Economics 2.0, but we're going to talk about modern digital business strategies. How do you take your existing organization and move it into this 2.0 world? Because that seems to be where the growth in the long-term future is. We have a lot of our older traditional business models, and they might be reaching the limits of their abilities to take us into the future, as we've seen with a lot of the financial institutions. So we're seeing new modes for creating value, new methods for generating productivity and worth, and we're talking about sustainable business models of the future, and we're going to focus on that.
Very good. So looking forward to it. So we'll be in Austin, Texas at the end of April. Thank you very much. Looking forward to seeing you there.
Thanks, Laura.
Thanks.